Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have or are going to be interviewing their own quarterbacks coach in Thad Lewis. Joining me today is Mr. Evan Wanish of BucsNation.com and the Cannon Fire podcast. Evan, this is the one that everybody's been waiting for in a way, right? In terms of in-house candidates, I guess just in terms of interviews in general. The Bucs were, I'm not going to say late to the party in terms of interviewing Thad Lewis, but they did finally get it into the process, so to speak. So, what are your thoughts and opinions about this?
Yeah, and the Buccaneers have confirmed that they have interviewed Thad Lewis, so it is not something that's scheduled. It has already happened. Um, yeah, it is interesting. Just like you said, this was sort of the one. As soon as Dave Canales, I think, departed for Carolina, you kind of looked at a guy like Thad Lewis as okay, like probably the most likely option here, right? And we knew it wasn't going to be like that quick and simple. We knew that they weren't going to just promote Thad Lewis immediately, but the search really has been a lot broader than I think a lot of people expected, and that shows you that they are honestly, they have a lot of interest in a lot of other candidates now. Um, Thad Lewis is also interviewed. He's had interest from the Titans. He's had interest from the Raiders. He had interest from the Bills. Now he won't be getting that Bills job because the Bills hired Joe Brady as their full-time offensive coordinator. But the Titans and Raiders still have open spots. So Thad Lewis, if he doesn't come to Tampa Bay as their offensive coordinator, odds are he's going to end up somewhere. And I don't know how to feel about the likelihood, because here's the thing, folks. With Harold Goodwin and Joe Gilbert departing, to me, that makes an in-house hire a little bit less likely. I don't know your opinion on that, James, but to me, it would seem like that would make an in-house hire a little bit more difficult and a little less likely.
Okay, so I agree with you. I agree with you 100% on this. One thing that you even said to me a couple of videos ago when we were talking about all these interviews, that when I saw that they were interviewing both Thad Lewis and John Van Dam, who we're going to be talking about in a separate video, it got me thinking about something that you had said the other day where you said, with these things, they look to pick these guys' brains, see what they think, right? And I wonder if in this interview, not only were they interested in Thad Lewis being the Bucs OC, but I wonder if they also asked, like, hey, if you don't get these jobs, like if you don't get a job with the Titans, if you don't get a job with the Raiders, I believe those were the two ones that you had mentioned, right?
Yep, yep.
If you don't get either one of those OC positions, would you want to stay on as the quarterbacks coach for the next OC we bring in? That was something that crossed my mind. What are your thoughts and opinions about that? I don't know if it's a theory, but just thought process that I'm on right now.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be a possibility. The one thing I would say would be difficult in that situation would be if you're hiring a brand new offensive coordinator from outside the organization, there's a chance they'd want to bring their own quarterbacks coach with them. So, but again, they hired Dave Canales from outside the organization, and Thad Lewis stayed on the head coaching the coaching staff. So, I guess it's definitely a possibility, and it could be something that they've brought up, right? Like, would you have interest in possibly staying because like we really like you? I know that Todd Bowles does like Thad Lewis a lot, and actually, it was a Bruce Arians hire. Thad Lewis was hired by Bruce Arians, but Thad Lewis is somebody who has really caught Todd Bowles' eye, and he's been really impressed by him. So I think in a perfect world, yeah, they'd like to keep him around if even if he were not to get the offensive coordinator job.
Yeah, and let's talk about, now taking that aside, let's talk about this as if he does get the OC position or what his qualifications are. Um, Evan, Thad Lewis doesn't have a lot of coaching experience so far up to this point. He was an offensive analyst at UCLA in 2018 and 2019. Then he joined Bruce Arians' staff in 2021 and was the assistant wide receivers coach at that point and in 2022 also. And then whenever Todd Bowles took over, he was moved up to quarterbacks coach in 2023 to the current day. So, what are your thoughts and opinions about Thad Lewis's resume, his qualifications? Again, much like a lot of the guys that have been interviewed so far up to this point, another former quarterback that, may have some type of specialty working with quarterbacks. And obviously, the continuity with Baker Mayfield there is a big plus.
Yeah, it's a big risk though, right? It is, and to me, it would be an even bigger risk taking on a guy like Thad Lewis than like even last year with Dave Canales. Dave Canales had a good bit of coaching experience there. He just was never an offensive coordinator, was never an offensive play caller for an NFL team. Thad Lewis, like you mentioned there, only has a handful of coaching experience and not much, if that. So not only has he not called plays, not only has he not been offensive coordinator, but he hasn't really been a coach for that long. So I definitely think you'd be taking a risk. At the same time, though, look, everybody's got to start somewhere, right? Like everybody has to get their start somewhere, and why not right here for Thad Lewis? So I do think there is risk in doing that, especially with something as important as this next offensive coordinator hire. I mean, look, we talked about. I would argue that this one might even be more important than last year's hire of Dave Canales in terms of like they need to get it right. Because last year at this point when they were hiring Dave Canales, you know who the quarterback was going to be. Now at this point we know that it's likely going to be Baker Mayfield, and that means that the Bucs are likely giving Baker Mayfield a pretty nice contract. So you need Baker Mayfield as a guy to work out, right? And if the offensive coordinator comes in and it doesn't really work, not only would your offense be stale, but you might be stuck with a guy like Baker Mayfield with a bad contract at that point. So I think it's important for them to nail this hire. It's important for Todd Bowles' job security, right? If the Buccaneers falter and miss the playoffs next year, I don't know if Todd Bowles stays on as head coach. So I do think that there is a risk. That being said, sometimes you got to take a swing. And why not take a swing here on a guy that obviously the Buccaneers know very well?
Out of all the options that have been interviewed so far up to this point, where would you have Thad Lewis?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would have him probably above Alex Van Pelt and Jake Peets, just for me personally. Gerard Johnson, obviously my top guy, is no longer available. I think I'd have him above Antoine Randall L. I mean, they're quite similar, honestly, like in terms of like coaching experience and stuff like that. Like they are very similar. I know like he got a lot of flack in Philly, but I still do like some of the things that Brian Johnson could bring to the table. So Thad Lewis wouldn't be at the top of my list, but he certainly wouldn't be at the bottom. So I'd say he's sort of near that like middle tier where like I think I'd be like relatively okay with it. There could be better options, but there certainly could be worse.
I think I agree with that. I think kind of middle of the pack is where I would have Thad Lewis right now. I understand that everybody does have to start somewhere. I just think some of the options that are out there are either a bit more qualified or just have a bit more going on right now in terms of some of the positions that they've held and some of the different things that they could bring to the table, I would say, in my opinion. So, ultimately, we're going to have to wait and see, guys. Of course, we'll keep an eye on this one. This is the one that a lot of people were waiting for, so we'll see if the Buccaneers kind of look in-house to their offensive coordinator. So, guys, let us know your thoughts and opinions. Also, Thad Lewis is a Florida guy, so pretty cool there as well. But, guys, let us know your thoughts and opinions about this down in the comments section below. It'd be greatly appreciated. Go check out Evan's work over at BucsNation.com and over at the Cannon Fire Podcast. Would be greatly appreciated. But, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. And as always, guys, we'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.